I'm redoing this fucking intro. All right, here we are, CITIUS Mag Podcast. I am joined by two-time NCAA champion Eric Jenkins. I am Mac Fleet, and we got a little bit of an emergency pod here because Grand Slam Track just signed their second and third racers for the 800, 1500 meter category, and they complete the Paris podium, signing Cole Hocker and Yared Nuguse to join Josh Kerr in this 800, 1500 meter category, where they'll be racing each other eight times a year, but in 4 events. Eric, like, first off, what are your impressions there for those next 2 signings?
I mean, huge. You can that's the whole. As far as 1500 meter guys, they're almost at all of them, right? Huge signings. Awesome that we know. It's fun with this now, just knowing when they're going to race. They have to race this many times. I think it bodes just really well. And it's going to be it's perfect for the fans.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of what we want. I mean, we had to wait all year to get all those guys to race each other. And now knowing that we get to see them multiple times over and over and over again, and it's not, how much I bitch about rabbits and the pace lights, and I know we're not going to get any of that for these races. I think it's super exciting. I don't know how you feel, but I love the anticipation of a little bit of a slower 15 or 800. And I also think that this is going to allow people to really showcase how good of racers they are, actually tactfully, yeah. Against the other world's best. I mean, we're actually really going to see not exactly who's the most fit, but who can actually race the best.
It is going to be it's so interesting to see what they can do with just no pacing and also no rounds in their legs. I mean, they will have, I guess, one race in their legs, right? But it does flip everything up, and it makes it so exciting. It's so different than everything out right now. But yeah, Cole and Yared, I mean, to go along with Josh Kerr signing, that's absolutely huge.
I think what you're going to see is guys in their probably most preferred event. So the more 15 3K guys are going to have a little bit of an easier time in the 15, right? Because they probably won't be 328 races, is my guess. I think we're going to see a lot of 332s, which obviously is still fast, but not for these guys anymore. But I think that they're really going to have to press themselves in the off event. So if they're Yared, for example, he's got a 343 mile PB. He's going to really have to give it a go in the 800. And I love watching these guys having to run all out just because they're so good, and knowing that, I don't know, it kind of gives them, it's not an out, but it just makes it really interesting that they have to go in and compete as hard as they can in an event that isn't necessarily their strong suit.
Is the scheduling always that the 800 will always be before the 15?
I have no clue.
No,
I don't know. My personal opinion, I think they should flip flop. The first event, it should go 8 first, second event 15 first, because I think that is going to have a pretty big impact on how people place. Also, it'll be interesting if someone just sucks it at the second event every single time.
I mean, running the 8 first is definitely easier for these. If they have to run a hard 8 after a really hard 15, you're going to see some bad 800s out of these guys. Because it's just the 800 is just going to be slightly easier for these guys to bounce back from. But it is interesting, with now that they have to do the 800 as well. Yared, has Yared run an open 8? What is Yared's?
2 years ago at the Sound Running meet, the track meet in LA. He won. I don't know what his time was, but yeah, I mean, the last time he ran an open 8, he won it. But I mean, it's not like he has a 141 PB like some of these guys that are out there right now.
Like Josh Kerr is pretty good at the 8, runs a lot of 8s. I think he's pretty comfortable in it. Same with Cole, very comfortable. He's got the wheels. But dudes like Yared, I think you will see them struggle in the 8. We'll see. I mean, I guess that's one of the fun things about it. Not typically thought of as an 800 guy, but now knowing that he's going to have to race 4 800s against all these guys, I wonder if like you're like, okay, no, we're going to stick to the plan and keep training the way we have been, or we're going to maybe toss some short stuff in there a little bit more frequently and try and get these wheels turning over a bit.
I can see it as a benefit for him because if you're to have one knock on him, it's slow 15s, right? It's like qualifying out of the semifinals or the prelims, and we've seen it over the last couple of years. If it's a slower race and it's bunched up, like he kind of struggles over the last 300 to really, I don't know, have that extra gear. So I could actually see this kind of help him going into the championship season.
And you could just look at it as just really good type of training. It's like, hey, look, we know you're not necessarily like an 800 guy, but this is just great exposure and good practice, good trainings. So go out there and like this is our speed training, and maybe he ends up surprising everybody.
Yeah, I can totally see it. All right, Eric, who's our last racer? Who do we want?
Oof. I mean, we're talking about all these guys, right?
Let me preface this. Okay, so in each event group, there are 4 signed league racers, and they're basically like contracted to the league, and they will be at every single one of the slams. And then there are 4 challengers that will challenge the 4 racers. So there's one more slot open for the Grand Slam track league racer in this event group, and that's who we're kind of like speculating. Who do we want to see as fans?
I mean, look, we want Jakob. Like we're talking about all these guys, right? And it would make it so much better to get Jakob right there along with those guys. But again, like who knows what the behind the scenes workings are like. How I'm sure Jakob's a tough guy to get down. And also if this is, because he's certainly not really known as an 800 guy. If he's gonna have to, if I could see him being like, look, I like this whole thing. I don't like the racing in 800 and doing it right before, the 1500 where I have to race all the guys that just beat me in Paris. I could see him not liking that a lot, but I'm sure the fans are all thinking, look, all the 3 of these guys, if we could have one more guy, everybody is thinking Jakob, especially like the Terrys had post Olympics, like 7:17 is like a made up 3K number that he ran.
That doesn't register in my head. Like 7:17, no. I'm like, what distance? Because it's certainly not 3K.
I'm like, no, that can't. No, there's just no. He didn't. That's not right.
And actually, in his defense, not that I mean we're kind of arguing for him here. He races a lot. He does like racing, and so I think that this does fit. I'm looking at his PB right now. I still have faster 800 meter PB than he does. Shocking. Relax. Actually shocking. Which maybe doesn't bode well for him being in this event group. But man, I would love to see him race those guys. Like, and he loves racing the 15. The 15 is like the thing that he's trying to conquer. The 5K, we've talked about this all during the Paris Olympics. The 5K is so easy for him, and it's just not even a thought. There's no noise around the 5K with him because he's going to win it no matter what. But the 15, there was all this talk with Josh and no one in the 5K. It was only the 15, and now we have Yared, now we have Cole that are in the mix, and now they have PBs to sort of like back up the hardware that they have. I mean, there's a real strong case.
I think especially like this also would work really well for him because it's another opportunity, multiple opportunities to practice non-rabbited 15s. It's like if you want to be able to set up kind of championship race situations in the 15 that you haven't quite been able to nail as of recently, this is the opportunity. This is perfect for him. So And especially, it's just like, even though he missed out on the podium in Paris, like he's still the guy, like one of the guys, right?
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
absolutely.
he's still like everyone wants to watch him race. He's still the favorite in all these races he's going into.
I mean, he just came back and
But
raced. He just came back and raced and beat Cole. You know, what was it?
exactly, yeah,
10 days after the Olympics. So
goal. Um, there's just something like about like he's so good in Diamond League setups, and then in a championship final 15 just has a tough time without the help of the for through that first 700-800 whatever it is. So like I'm definitely biased. I would love to see Jakob go against those guys. I think it would set up like for fantastic racing. It would also be, he still puts out the sound bites. He would, it's not even really, he's talking shit, but not really. He's just like incredibly confident in himself and isn't afraid to say that. And so I think it's fantastic for everyone, fans especially.
yeah, I mean,
But
go.
like, if this with the 8:15, you got our boy Hobbs Kessler, right? Like,
Right.
talk about a guy who is like, wait, we have to run both the 8 and the 15. Like, that's kind of what I'm known for right now. I think he would be perfect in it. He's not like quite at the pedigree that Jakob Ingebrigtsen is, but he's a way better 800 guy than he is flat out. And he's just very good at both of those distances right now. So that, like, this setup bodes incredibly well for a guy like Kessler.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of crazy just the trajectory that Hobbs is on. And yeah, if we're going off of PBs and I guess just recent performances, like he's got his indoor medal, and then he was just fifth at the Olympics in the 15. He's got his 143 PB. He made both the 15 and the 800-meter team for the US, which are two of the harder teams to make.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely incredible season. Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting is someone like Hobbs could win the whole thing, but he's not one of the top names in the world yet, if that makes any sense. Like, I could see him getting third in the 800 and third in the 15 every single Grand Slam event and just wins the entire thing. I don't know if you have an argument for any of these other guys for placing top three, depending on who the fourth racer is and who the other four challengers are, because who I think is the next guy after Jakob is Emmanuel, Wignoni, with his 141.1, that he's second fastest time of all time, Olympic champ in the 800. He's run 141 4 times this season. So it's like,
insane.
If he's the fourth guy, does he win every single 800? And then it's like, all right, what 15 3K guy does his best to get second or third or fourth or fifth in that race, depending on who the other challengers are. That's where it's like really interesting to me, because if you have a Wignoni in there, the races are going to go fast because he's going to lead, and it's just going to burn the strength 15 guys.
Well, and so Wignoni would have to double back and then do these 15s, right?
Right.
Now that's a thing.
Yeah, right. So his PB is only 343 for the 1500, but I don't know how they're going to score this thing, but he's getting 100% points for winning the 800 every single time. Like, I don't know if there's a 15 guy that you could lock for winning every single time. But I think if you put Wignoni in that category, he's winning the 8 almost every single time, or every single time.
Yeah, you can't really see unless you got Marco Arop in there. Like, Wignoni is going to run away with that 8 every single time. And then he's probably going to get smashed in the 15 every single time. But
but he has those 10 points.
Yeah, so it cancels each other's out on points. So he's, I guess, doing pretty well still.
That's what I don't know. That's where I think an argument for someone like Hobbs like we want to see Jakob because of like the characters, right? And their performances over 15. But if we're arguing over who we think is going to place the highest against those other three, I honestly,
Yeah.
I think Hobbs has a better chance at placing higher against those other three than Wanyoni. But this is what makes
Oh
it
yeah.
so interesting.
Well, I mean, you could see Hobbs winning it because like there could be days where Hobbs might beat Yared or might beat like he's not just one of these guys where it's like, oh, like these other 15 guys are going to beat Hobbs day in day out. Like he's kind of cemented himself as one of the best in the world now, and he's not. It's gonna take a big effort to beat him. So he's probably gonna have days where he beats some of the bigger names than him, and then like they're gonna have to. They probably have less of a shot at beating him in the 8 than he has at beating them in the 15.
Right.
So I think he's just these guys that just gets a ton of points. And I could see if it's just going off points, you're like, look, I don't want bring in Wanyoni, bring in, even like me, yeah, bring in Jakob. Like, yeah, we probably aren't going to beat him a whole lot in the 15, but we're probably going to beat him a whole lot in the 8.
Yeah, you'll probably put more spots between yourself and him in the 8 than you would
100%. Then you would have Hobbs.
Right.
Yeah.
I could totally see that. That's honestly pretty entertaining. All right, some other names here. Timmy C, our boy, Timothy Cheria, who he has PRs at 328 and 143. I don't know when he ran 143. I'm gonna guess it hasn't been in the last 2 years. I could be wrong about that, but I'm just gonna guess that because he's been banged up for the last 18 months. He would be fantastic. That he's always in it. He's not afraid to make moves, and I think in a non-rabbited race, I think he would make everything really interesting because he's always in the front and he is not afraid to put himself deliberately in front to change just sort of the outcome of the race.
Yeah, Tim, like, yeah, I wonder when he did run that. That 143. That sounds like a 2019 Tim Cheria type activity. But he is someone who always goes for it. It's amazing. He even like his stride doesn't seem at all like a 143 800 stride, but like, goddamn, when that guy just gets up to top speed, he can just hold it. He's kind of like he's just like a true like legend of the sport at this point, like veteran. Been in there at all the big races, all the big finals. Like when was the first time medal? 2017.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Like he's just been around.
You're dead on. 2019 143 in Nairobi. So
there we go. Yeah, I was like, that sounds to me.
All right, some other names here. Marco Arope. I know we touched on him briefly, but he's got a couple 141s to his name this year. He just ran 141.20 behind Wanyoni. Silver medal in Paris, gold medal in Budapest last year. He would also be similar he's in the same boat as Wanyoni. He's going to win or get second in every single 800. He has a 338 PB in the 15, but I don't know. Better
than Wanyoni.
It's a little bit better than Wanyoni. That's the thing is like these guys in the 15 are just going to sit in the back and try to pick off people that are dying, right?
Yeah, and I guess it's like you don't know, like since it is not a rabbited race, we don't know how slow these 15s are going to go. You don't really see true like NCAA sit and kick 15s anymore. Like it's just that's gone. Because if you did see it, guy like Marco could do really well. Like if you want to if you want to jog for 1,100 meters and then run, you're gonna have problems with a guy like Marco. Could be like, this is actually a perfect race for me, and I love the 1,500. That
makes me so excited to think about. I love that stuff, and it's not that. I mean, I like watching people run fast too. Like that's really cool, but the anxiety of a slow 15, I don't think that there's anything really like. I mean, we kind of saw it in the prelims of the 5K in Paris. Like they jogged, but it was exciting. It eventually got exciting.
Oh, it's I honestly like we all know these guys can run incredibly fast, right? Like we've seen it time and time again. Like, yes, they're unbelievably fast. I'm sure that Jakob will break the world record again, and like or break the 50. Like it, we know that they're fast, but there is something so incredibly exciting, very high stakes of a true sit and kick race where the tension is just building and building and building until the bell lap, and there's so many moves being made, like way before the bell, like so much gamesmanship going on. You don't see that anymore, but it is incredibly exciting, and it's still like Centro's, like people love to talk about like, oh yeah, Centro's 2016 like race kind of ruined sit, like no one will do a sit and kick race after Centro. And it's like, well, first of all, like Centro, that wasn't Centro's first global medal. He'd been medaling at all the ones before that. So it's tough to like, but also it's like that was such an incredible race. Like so much happened.
There's so much movement happening before that final lap of people trying to get into position. And that's what that's why my dream for this whole thing, this whole Grand Slam track thing, is that we can beat the time stuff out of people's heads and just focus on the actual like tactics and racing, because it's hard to describe it to just, I don't know, I want to say like regular fans, but fans that maybe didn't compete at like a higher level aren't, the broadcast doesn't tell them that it's exciting. But if those fans were to sit in the stands with like you or I or anyone that was, you know, I don't know, I think competed at like a high level NCAA or after, we get more excited for those slower races than we do people that are breaking world records most of the time. It's just a more exciting race to us. You'll hear us start like screaming if a first lap is slow, just because of how exciting it is to us. If they do go a little bit slower, I think there's a couple more names on here. Bryce Hoppel and Elliot Giles, I think, are two other names.
Giles, Hoppel's a guy.
Yeah, Hoppel and Giles. Giles, I think, is in the Hobbs Kessler category, where like maybe he doesn't win anything, but I think that he places top 3, top 4 in a lot of the races.
For sure. I mean, because he's actually a legit 800 guy and a legit 15 guy. Is he a sub 330?
So he's got PB. He's got 143 for the 800, and he's run 330 for the 15. Okay. But he did just break the world record in the road mile, and he beat Yared. Broke the record,
beat Yared. Like, so he beats big guys. He's done it before. He's for sure in that Kessler category where it would totally make sense to have him there he's a threat in both events. Like Hoppel's is, you know, again, similar to these other 8 guys, but it's just, I mean, has Hoppel run a 15?
His PB is 342.
Yeah, like he really just sticks with the 8.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously like 141, 67 guy in the 8. Was just fourth in Paris by about this much. He's got his indoor global medal. He's been running really well for the last 3 years. He's put him in the same boat as Marco and Wignoni, right? Like he's going to do really well in the 8, and then in the 15, 100%. It's just like I think those guys are just sitting in last and trying to pick up stragglers, try to get as many points as possible. But I don't know. I don't know how dangerous those guys are going to be across like the entire scoring thing, which is going to be super interesting in this first year, just like seeing who is, if you want to be a more rounded runner or if you want to be really good at one of the events.
Yeah. It's interesting because let's say you were able to kind of flow in between events. Like if some of these 15 guys were able to step up and run, like it's like, okay, you got to run 2 events. Some of these 15 guys are going to run the 15-8. Some of these 15 guys are going to run the 15-3. Then you'd see a lot more guys probably like, then it's like, Jakob's like, hell yeah, I'll do it. So that would be really interesting. It's just like the 8 guys are in a bit, because the 8 is so much different than the 15, and the 15 is just so much more. The 15 and the 5 are way more similar than the 8 and the 15. It's like the 8 is just a lot different of an event,
But I
and so it's
think,
going to make these guys harder.
yeah, I think in the argument for Jakob there is that the guys that are already signed are lean towards the 3K than the 800, right? Like
Yeah,
Josh,
yeah,
Josh,
yeah,
Josh has the he's 3K indoor champ, world champ, and he has the world record for was that 3K or 2 mile, whatever the hell that was. Yared definitely leans 3K, and I think we've seen Cole. I mean, he had his 12:58 5K
yeah,
this year, so he's definitely going up. So for those guys to
yeah,
commit to the 8:15 group, I think should welcome Jakob into that. It's like, hey, we're doing it. You should do it too.
yeah. I just think he like Jakob is just. I mean, I don't think you would want like Jakob wouldn't want to lose to those guys, and he wouldn't want to be comfortable like losing a bunch of 800-meter races to those guys that he's battling for medals with at these championship races. Even if it's like, hey, look, it's an off-foot event, it's just an 800. Like everyone knows you're better at the 15 than you are there. He's like, no, like I still don't like that. I still don't want to come out and get ninth in an 800, and like to the guys that podiumed in front of me in Paris. Like fuck that. I'm not doing that. I think it's a tough sell for him to get behind. He's like a true competitor. He like the other guys. Like it's Josh is a better 800 guy than him. I mean, like we said, they're all better 800 guys than him on paper. So I think it would be tough for him to sign up knowing, hey, I got to run 4.8s against these guys.
Oh, totally. The one thing that I do have hope for with him is that he talks so much about people not racing enough. He's like, hey, the big guys don't show up to the Diamond Leagues. I'm here every single week. And he made like
Yeah,
I think it was right after he raced Cole just recently. He said, thanks for showing up, which is kind of a knock at
I
Josh
know.
because he bags on Josh for not showing up to the Diamond Leagues. Which I thought was it's kind of a cool gesture, like, hey, thanks for showing up. But he said it after he beat him by like 2 seconds, which is also funny. But I mean, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for him to race them. It's
Oh
right
yeah,
there.
for sure. What like that remark to Cole was like, I honestly think some of the best get in your head shit talking. Like it was like, hey, look, I honestly think it was like saying to Cole, like, hey, look, you knew like I was going to beat you again, but like, thank you for coming out. Like it actually does mean a lot to me that you came when you knew I kind of was going to have the advantage over you. That's how I took it. Like in a way, I was like, it was kind of sweet, but I was like, I know, like, I think it was more just like, hey, like, I appreciate you coming out knowing you were probably going to lose to me. That's how I think he said it. I was like, this is brilliant. This guy is not letting, like, his mind games are really on point. And maybe I'm looking too much into that. Maybe he was just like glad that Cole came out, but still, I think there was a little bit of like, hey, thanks for coming out, even though like you didn't have to, like you knew I was probably gonna best you, but like glad you came out.
I'm so curious how Cole took that. Is it like
Yeah,
immediately disarming and he's like, oh, that's nice of him, and then does he think about it and he's like, wait a second, fuck that.
honestly, like I think if you're Cole, like you're like who give like you've got the Olympic gold, that like you're like who gives a fuck, like even like you could take it poorly and be like what do you mean? I'm sure like he didn't take it as anything because like look, I just won the biggest race of my life, and you came in fourth, so like I don't really, like who cares what you're saying, but it's funny because on the surface it was just like a sweet like wholesome moment. But I think there was definitely just like a little bit of like getting under the skin that Jakob was doing. I mean, and he was also
Also,
because
Ricochet
he
shot
turned
to
around
Josh.
a huge shot to Josh because after like a really like humble Instagram post, like post 1500, he's like he like wins the 5K and then he's like, fuck that, I'm back. Like Josh isn't showing up at any of these races, like fucking pussy. I'm like, here I am. Here's Cole. Here's my boy Cole. He's here. It's like there is like he's still back with the kind of words, which is why like him at the like if he could get signed up to the Grand Slam, it would just be like every single race would be pretty huge and monumental, and you wouldn't need to be waiting until the championships for all of these guys to be facing off again.
I know you're saying he didn't want to be beat by them, which I agree with. Imagine if he was beating them in the 800. How much shit talking he would be doing. It would be incredible.
It'd be so good because I was thinking like remember after Prefontaine, after the Bowerman Mile where he came in second, he was like talking so like he was like these guys didn't think I was gonna finish second running this fast. Like it was like he was kind of talking like he won. I loved it. I thought it was so good. It was like he was literally he was like, yeah, like Josh probably he didn't think I'd be that close behind him. And it was like 5 minutes ago before the race, everyone had been like, yeah, like Jakob should probably win or whatever. But it's just so good. He will never waste an opportunity to just kind of talk a little bit, which is I'm a huge fan of. I could be more of a fan of it.
Huge fan. But also I think it's a little bit of insight of how insane these guys actually have to be. Like I think that's like it's a requirement for them to think that way. Like it's like, all right, I just lost. How and you have to believe it 100% conviction of like, oh no, there is an absolute reason why I just lost this race, and here's why it's a good thing for me and my season. And also, how can I start meddling with the mindset of my competitors that I'm going to have to race, in 2 months?
It's perfect, and like you do have to like every single guy is lining up expecting to win the race. Like that's the ego that all these guys have to be as successful as they are. And yeah, like Jakob is going to use every single thing, like because also kind of to go with his point, like yeah, he missed an entire winter and still was able to have this season he's had outdoors. Like that is incredibly rare. Speaks to how talented he is, and it speaks to kind of his mindset, because mindset is kind of everything at the level that these guys are at. So it's like, and just the more we'd be able to get the opportunity to see that, and the amount of hype that would come from all these guys, especially Cole, especially like Yared, you add these guys into the mix, like these guys, like shit, they let Jakob not even make the podium.
Right.
So it's like more that these guys are going to face off. It's just, especially without the rabbit and this new kind of setting, it brings a whole new element to the table.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited. And if we don't get Josh and it ends up being someone like Mignoni, I'm extremely excited to see the excellence that he has over 800 meters and how that pans out in terms of just the overall scoring and competition. Because you have 3 kind of strength 15 guys already that are signed, it would be interesting just to see a pure 800-meter guy mix it up with them and just kind of see where it all, I don't know, how it unfolds. And if they don't get Josh, or if they don't get Jakob, hopefully he's a racer at one of them. Like hopefully Kyle can get him at least to show up to one of them, see how it pans out, and then maybe get any of these guys for next year. It would be funny if he just showed up for one of them, cleaned up, and then was like, yeah, I'll see you guys in Tokyo. I don't know.
I could very well see that. I think you could very well see him being like, look, I don't want to do all these 800s. I will absolutely show up for one to get some get some experience with a non-paced 15, maybe play around with tactics a bit, do something a bit different, not just make it a sub 330 race from the gun. Maybe like I was big in on like hoping to see him wind it up the last 8 or 1200. Like I think you could see this is an opportunity to play around with that a bit. in the
I'm
setting, not at stakes.
I'm imagining. Sorry, I'm stepping on you there. Now I'm imagining him coming in as like the villain. He's the challenger, and so you have like your racers crew, and then lights go black. Who is it? It's Jakob
Yeah,
Ingebrigtsen
they
coming in.
announce it.
Yeah, as the challenger. Now I'm kind of selling. I'm kind of buying that right now.
Do they do? Is that how it won't be any? Will that be how it like? Will they be announcing them like in the tunnel type of thing, or
I don't
there's
know.
got
I think there's going
that
to be
would
a
be
little bit.
sick.
I think there's going to be a little bit more. It's going to because they got to sell tickets to things, so I think they're going to probably
Oh,
announce it
got it.
beforehand.
Yeah.
But there's a
Can you
total like
imagine?
reality TV, like the black SUV pulls up, and you have the racers all sitting down, and they're just watching who steps out of the car.
It's literally like the Bachelorette with Jakob getting out the limo, and they're like, "Oh fuck me, are you kidding?" That
Exactly.
would be so. That'd be so good. They're like, "Look, we didn't hype this up, and we didn't sell the amount of tickets that we could have, but this moment is good." The last guy you're sitting on the start line for the 15, the last dude you want to see pulls up. He just gets out of a limo, spiked up,
Yeah, I
singlet
think you
on.
have from the car showing up, you have 75 minutes until gun. So you got to
Yeah,
go you got
yeah,
to go right into the warm up knowing who
yeah.
just after you find out who steps out of the car.
Oh, that'd be good stuff right there.
I think we solved it. I think
We
that's how
solved
you
it.
I think that's how you do it. Uh if the fans knew that that's how they did it, I think that would actually get pretty popular.
It'd be really fun. It'd be really fun. Like it would be. People would be just so excited for the reveal, and
Right.
then the race. They're like the race, yeah, whatever. Like the race was decent, but like the reveal, everyone's just waiting for everyone to get out of the limo.
Right. It's the Marcus Aurelius gladiator turn, you know.
It's the gladiator turn.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, Eric, thanks for hopping on here last minute. I'm excited for these rollouts. They've
I'm
got
stoked. When is the first Grand Slam track?
I don't think they have dates yet, but I mean
Yeah.
it's track season next year,
Yeah.
2025 outdoor track.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be rolling out the locations and the dates here pretty soon. So I'm excited for that too. So all right, Eric.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mac.